at least until after we have some opportunity to have some board discussion about it. I have some concerns that if we can show documentation that the person was assigned to that, I have not a problem with it. But I don't think that we should get ourselves into a position where if we want to go to a meeting, that we have the opportunity to put in for per diem for it without the board prior agreement to that.
Can we discuss that in discussion right now that we have the second?
Yeah, because that's not my motion, but
He said that his motion needs to state that.
My second needs to
Or,
state that.
excuse me, so I stated that wrong. His second needs to state that. But Springer said no.
That is, okay, so that was not your motion.
Then I withdraw my second.
Okay.
Okay, we are looking for a second for the consent agenda for the second time.
we hope to discuss it, let's discuss it. Other discussion will come, I'll second that motion.
We have a second, and now we will have our discussion.
Okay, I guess the first question is, how many commissioners went to that hearing? That's what this is about.
I did. Were you there?
I wasn't there.
I did not go.
Okay, did you put in for per diem?
I did not, no.
Did you put in for per diem?
I honestly don't know. I
Oh,
don't think so. I
mean,
don't know. Do you
because
know?
3 agreed to go, does that mean that we're entitled to per diems for a hearing? That's not part of our assignment.
Well, but what the issue arises is, the county board was noticed by an attorney in regards to this hearing. Now, in the hearing, the county attorney's office, along with Steve Irwin out of Plainview, had to even request as to who this suit was being brought against. And as a commissioner, and we've been served, I would think it would be the duty of us to be present. And if people put in the time, this isn't something special that they just choose to go to. This was potential litigation. And since we don't have an administrator, we are administration. And so that would be one reason I believe that it should be paid.
Go ahead.
Just to clarify that the county board did recess to that meeting because we knew, I don't remember what the date was, but the meeting prior, we knew that 3 of commissioners were going to go to that court hearing, so we recessed to that meeting.
So when you recess, does that mean it's a continuation of the meeting you were at? Or does that mean it's a separate meeting?
If it's, because
You
then
know-
under the policy, I believe, special board meetings, we do not pay per diems on the policy, under the county policy.
Yeah, they've been paying for special board meetings.
Okay, so
Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
we have been paying or we have not?
The
been
policy says we should not be paying for special board meetings, if I remember correctly. I don't have the policy right in front of me. Does it state it in that per diem? I do have some language down at the bottom. That might be just the language out of the statute itself as to what classifies whether a per diem can be claimed. You know, keep in mind, you don't have to claim any per diems if you don't want to. But if there is a per diem claimed, it needs to fall within that statute and also within county policy. And I did question this particular one just because it was a government study commission. And I talked to Michael Plant, and he said, well, that government study, this wasn't for the government study commission meeting. And that was why he didn't feel it fell within that, the judge's ruling of not paying expenses related to that.
I just have one question then, is when the county gets served, the chairman of the board generally gets served with a legal action, as does the county auditor, and possibly a copy to the county attorney. That does not necessarily mean that the county board has to be at every court appearance. They're usually represented by legal counsel out there. So, you know, I'm just giving you my view of this thing is that we didn't have to be there. There was no compelling legal reason for us to be there, except that maybe in our interest or,
Well, but see, that's your opinion. we have no administration here except us. This board, prior to my arrival, decided that this would be the case. That's what,
Okay, but
that's
that
what
should have
this
been
board
the
wanted.
chairman of the board's
But
responsibility.
he wasn't there, so the vice chairman was.
And
I had a
Okay.
prior meeting that day,
Okay,
I believe
but
I could go.
were any of the county commissioners required to testify for anything, in order to serve as material
We
witnesses?
don't know.
I have a,
So-
may I,
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Mr. Nordstrom, was Wabasha County an adverse party in that legal motion?
We weren't sure until we got to the hearing.
So what, has it turned out, were we an adverse party to that motion?
According to Mr. Cardall, we were not.
So the county is not involved in that?
Well, you find out after the fact. I mean, it's an after-the-fact motion, that's why the question was asked, because I think these, you know, when these frivolous lawsuits are being thrown around, we need to, you know, I mean, what, who represents, you know, I mean,
But then, why was, I guess I asked Michael quite a few times, why was I served those papers?
I'm not sure.
And nobody seemed to, I just forwarded them on to you guys, because I didn't know.
I think in some rules in government that you're legally required to be served a copy as, if you're.
Well,
not,
right,
yeah.
but if we were,
we're not an adverse party in the,
It was a real unusual proceeding because there was no lawsuit started. Generally, when there's a lawsuit, there's a plaintiff or plaintiffs and defendant or defendants. There was no one named, it was just a motion brought in the title of in re the petition of Michael Morath and I think it was other Wabasha County citizens to form a government study commission. So it was a highly unusual procedure from our point of view. And that doesn't have anything to do with what you decide on the per diem, but it was not clear to anyone, perhaps other than Mr. Cardall, who exactly was a party to the proceeding. And that's why when I was there, I asked him to clarify that.
Okay.
And that may have nothing to do with your determination on whether a per diem was paid. To answer your question earlier, if you recess a meeting to a later time, that's a continuation of that meeting.
Okay, so if we go from that premise, then it would be logical that that not be a special meeting to which a person is entitled to per diem. There's a lot of hard feelings about the per diems and the pay structure here right now.
I understand that.
And I think the perception out there is that it's probably not being used rightly, you know? That's a perception. And
I don't have the policy. in front of
I
me,
guess
Mr.
I don't,
Chairman.
I mean, if you want to argue for the per diem, you know, you go for it, and let's call the question. and-
What is,
and-
before we call the question, I want to know what Mr. Nordstrom's opinion is. Is it or is it not? What is your, what are your thoughts? Is it or is it not? Is it or not what? A legal per diem, is it?
Well, he would have to have the statute in front of him
Yeah, I've
and
got
the
to look at that
policy.
statute and our
Yeah.
policy. I'm sorry, I can give you that, I can give you an opinion on that shortly if you want to just remove that item from the consent agenda, but do you, I don't even know, do you select per diems for your regular meetings?
No.
No,
No.
no.
We don't.
well, why don't I change the motion to pull that per diem and move forward with the rest of the consent agenda.
will you state 422, please? Will you
State-
state that in your motion, 422?
What's
April
422?
22nd,
Oh,
sorry.
22nd.
For the government
22nd.
study commission
For the
hearing.
hearing.
Remove the per diem of
Remove that per
422.
diem of 422.
You're okay
Yeah, I'll
with that?
second that. You were thinking it was a state statute. I've got
I'm like,
You can't read my mind?
Okay, Denise, will you repeat the motion we have on the
Motion
floor?
by Commissioner Springer, second by Commissioner Wabi, approve the consent agenda with the removal of $45 of the government study hearing per diem dated April 22nd, 2013.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chair, on the consent agenda, we didn't really discuss the public health, I mean, unless the rest of the board doesn't want. I've got the information on it. But approve the agreement with Rochester Foundation for Joyride. I guess it's.
So you're saying we really weren't through with your discussions?
That was in the,
Yes, it
that
was.
was in the consent agenda.
I agree
I
it was.
mean, Tish is here to explain it if there's any interest, I guess. It's up to you
We
guys.
can still have it explained if you like.
have her explain it.
Tisha, you want to come up and explain that consent agenda item, please?
I will do the best I can.
Commissioner Russian brought it up at the last meeting about Hiawatha Transit, and it's finalized there.
All right. Part of the grant that I work in, which is the Towards Zero Death grant, one of the objectives that we're trying to accomplish